You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call. As today, your Indiana Hoosiers defeated Rutgers 66-60 to move to 17-7 overall and 8-5 in the Big Ten, and winners of 7 of 8 after a rough start in the Big Ten. Great effort tonight, rebounding from a very emotional win over the number one team, and then 2 days later coming in against the second best team in the Big Ten in Rutgers, beating them and taking over that second place spot in the Big Ten. Could be a tie, but we'll take that second place spot right now. I'm your host, Coach Brian Tonsoni, and I'm with Ryan Phillips. Jared Morris will join us in about 30 minutes to finish up the show, but we'll break it down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. So let's start this show the way we start every show, and that's with our banner moment. And, man, I think there are a lot of banner moments, Ryan, that you could really pick out. Trey Galloway's play at the very end to really kind of get some final separation at a key moment. I think also the number of times that Indiana answered Rutgers' runs. And the one I'm going to talk about for the banner moment is coming out of half. A little disappointing, got outplayed the last 5 minutes of the first half, and then got down to a 3-point lead at halftime. And then coming out of the half, Rutgers hits a three to go to 40-40. And then next thing you know, Indiana stretches the lead back to 47-40. And then kept that lead for most of the second half. So I just thought that they did a really good job of answering the bell, especially when it was 40-40, that after having a 14-point lead at 30-16, that play. And one play in particular was Trace Jackson Davis got a post feed, and he went over his left shoulder, turned to his right hand, and powered it up. I might have had a dunk at that point to put Indiana up 45-40. And that really kind of set the tone. I thought Indiana played and dominated the first 15 minutes of every half and kind of got outplayed the last 5 minutes of each half. You'll have that against good quality teams, but they answered runs today, Ryan, and I think that was a key part of this win, and that is our banner moment. So now it's time to move the ball, hit the open man, and get some opening thoughts from our panel, and we only have one right now, and it's Ryan, and maybe we'll get some opening thoughts from Jared. But what did you think tonight as IU wins 66-60?
Yeah, sorry to disappoint, guys. I'm the only other panelist tonight. Look, Indiana has had issues with Rutgers for years. No matter who the coach is, no matter who the players are, it's a toughness factor. And Rutgers pushes people around. They'll hammer you. They'll hit you hard. They play like a football team. And I don't mean that necessarily in a derogatory sense. They are a tough team, and that's what Steve Peichel has built there. But Indiana coming away with the win, I know the last about 12 minutes was not pretty, but they found a way to tough it out. And, right now you look at it, Indiana's won 7 of 8 and are 8-5 in the Big Ten and are in second place. And nobody seems to want second place in the Big Ten. Well, guess what? Indiana's there right now, and Indiana's got an inside track on getting that and controls its own destiny for that, double bye in the Big Ten tournament. Where I'm going to go tonight is a guy who I think's been maligned by Indiana fans, I think unfairly, and I've sort of been an advocate for all year, and that's Miller Kopp. I thought he played a phenomenal game on both ends. There were a few times he got loose in transition, let guys get a couple shots up. That's going to happen throughout the course of the game, but Miller was hustling and playing as hard as anybody on the floor throughout the entire game. He led Indiana in plus-minus at +11, hit 4 of 6 threes. 6 of 9 from the floor, finished with 18 points. He was a second leading scorer on a night where Jalen Hood-Schifino did not have his jump shot and did not have his offense, and I thought was forcing it a lot. In a way he didn't against Purdue. And in a way we've seen him when he's had those struggling games. He's kind of forced his jumper, shot a little too much. He shot 9 times, only made it twice. But in a game where that's happening from the perimeter, you need somebody else to step up. And we talked about it with Mark Titus after the Ohio State game. Indiana's ceiling is going to be determined by the role players. Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis are going to be great. It's the other guys that are going to determine how good this team is. Tamar Bates, Trey Galloway, Miller Kopp, Race Thompson, Malik Renew. That's what determines how far Indiana can go. And tonight, you always have to have a guy stepping up. And tonight it was Miller Kopp. And I thought, not just with his offense, but on both ends, I thought he was great defensively. I thought he moved really well defensively. I thought he got up into their guards and really attacked them. And so that's the guy I think is worth focusing on. Obviously, I think we're going to talk a certain guy next who deserves our attention as well.
But before we do that,
Home field apparel, wear one for the team.
we need to mention that our banner moment and opening comments are sponsored by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their 6th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their second as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. As you surely know by now, Home Field has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you'll find anywhere, with beloved logos like 2 different versions of the Bison. And if you support other college teams or have people in your life who do, Home Field probably has something for them too. Their product line now extends to more than 120 different schools with unique vintage logos for all of them. And they just came out with hats, and they're coming out with quarter zips, and my bank account is dwindling. I kind of got the look from Mrs. Tonsoni to hold off for a couple weeks, but buy your Home Field stuff. And no matter what you buy, you know it'll be comfortable. The colors will last through many washings, plus you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through the Kelly School of Business. What could be better than that? So go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME, that's HOME, for 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, Ryan, let's go back to Trace Jackson Davis. I think that's where you were leading me to talk about. But before that, I'd like to add to your comments about Miller Kopp. They started to move him in the last couple games. And Coach Adranya, in my coach's corner in the community, we saw some actions that Indiana had and maybe decided to use or designed coming into the Purdue game that they were using again tonight. And it just makes it a little bit difficult for Miller Kopp to be guarded or to be found on closeouts. And he's still getting kick-out threes from the double and off the ball screen.
And off transition, too.
And off transition. But, man, this is the Miller Kopp that can really help Indiana score and make Indiana really tough to beat going down the stretch. And not only that, Ryan, I thought you might be – we're not in the third segment yet, but you can give him the game ball, the hustle award, the leadership award. I mean, this is a Miller Kopp night, I believe.
Way to give him an Emmy in there. Yeah.
Yeah, a Grammy.
He was excellent.
He was just all over the court, and I thought he did a good job. And really, when he went out there with his 4th foul, I thought things got a little stagnant. So
they did. I thought that threw off the rhythm a little. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see a guy who puts the team first. It's good to see a guy who has patiently waited for his opportunities to score the basketball come up big in a game like Indiana has lost 6 in a row to Rutgers.
Yeah,
and this was
a game they needed.
Not only
they needed this.
They
game.
needed.
It's not must win. I mean, I hate that term for a must win game, but it was a game they needed because again, we've talked about this endlessly. Is this program's had a problem with success, and you have a big win. Right. And a lot of programs have this problem where you have a big win and then, okay, the next team's coming to town and you just have this massive letdown. And again, that happens in college sports. You're dealing with, 18 to 22-year-olds. You're going to have that. It's just a natural reaction to kind of relax and start reading your press clippings and feel real good about yourself. And it happens in games. When you get up 15, everybody relaxes thinking they got the game won and the other team comes storming back. And we've seen all of that with this team. But it's a big win because they were able to validate that Purdue win, and last year when they beat Purdue, what happened next? They walked out and got absolutely annihilated by Michigan. And it almost is not only is it a letdown, it almost takes everything back like 3 steps. Cause then you're like, all right, back to the drawing board. Let's go, guys. Let's go back to the fundamentals or whatever. And they didn't do that today. They stepped up. They started the game real well with a lot of confidence and kept following it up. And when they did get punched in the mouth, they were able, while it was rough and it didn't look great at times, they were able to tough out that win, get a play like Trace, getting that rebound off of Race Thompson's air ball and putting it back through contact that didn't get called, and Trey Galloway coming up with that rebound. Those things, that's what tough teams do. And that's what teams who want to win do, is they go after those things. And playing his defense is as tough as they did, through most of the first half is what tough teams do. But the Trace Jackson-Davis thing, I mean, this wasn't his best game. He wound up with 18 rebounds, but 20 points, 8 of 14 from the field. And Rutgers made it tough on him by crowding the paint as they did the first time they played. But man, what a career for that dude. Like, I'm sorry, the first player,
2,000 points he got, right, on a dunk, I believe.
2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds, first player in Indiana history to do that. And whenever you're the first player in Indiana history to do something, and it's good, it's a good stat, that's worth celebrating. And I mean, what a career this kid has had. He's seen the worst, to some of the worst times of Indiana basketball, and to be doing that in his senior year and to be having the team play the way it is, it's solely on him. I mean, let's be real. Without him, where is Indiana? They got some good players, and they'd probably be competitive. But to be second in the Big Ten right now, winning 7 of 8, and be racing up the rankings and having knocked off Purdue, this is Trace Jackson-Davis's team, and it's been made in his image, and he is just an absolute stud. And I hope people appreciate him while he's here. I know they have not had the tournament success. They have not had the Big Ten success. They've not had that while he's been here, but that's not on him. This kid has played hard, and he has done everything he could for Indiana the entire time he's been on campus. You've never heard a single negative thing about him. This kid works his tail off, and he deserves all the accolades that are coming his way. And any other year, he'd be the runaway national player of the year. It's a bummer for him that that's not the case this year. But, man, I just hope Indiana fans are appreciating this while it's here.
Your best player has to be your hardest worker and your toughest player. And I know that's a lot of pressure on TJD every night to carry this team. But, man, has he responded. He had some turnovers and some questionable passes, but overall 20 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists. But I'm really happy with the way he's guarded a couple big men here. He's pushing them off the block. He's in a stance. He's arm barring. He's not taking possessions off on the defensive end, as well as blocking shots and being an intimidating threat there. He's really, people have to really work to score against him. And I think that's, that's something that isn't – the blocks and rebounds are part of the defense. They're in the stat sheet, but I just like his physicality.
Yeah, look, last year, Trace Jackson-Davis made the all-defense team in the Big Ten, and I had some people texting me who were involved in the Big Ten, who were involved with teams and who cover the Big Ten, and thought it was hilarious because he put up a lot of block numbers, but until very late in the season, he didn't actually play great defense straight up, and he lost his guy chasing blocks a lot. He is a different player this year on that end of the floor. And that gets lost because of the gaudy numbers. He's breaking records in points and rebounds and all of that, and having a triple-double and, putting up massive point totals. He did set the blocks record. But again, blocks and steals aren't necessarily an indication of good defense. They're an indication of being good with the ball and being good at anticipation and things like that. But it's not
some athleticism.
And athleticism and all of that and being opportunistic. It's not always a measure of a good defender. And he's become a very solid, smart defender one-on-one with other big men in this conference. And I think a lot of it is confidence. I think he just, maybe because he's the old guy on the block now. He's got an understanding of that he can beat these guys up. And you've seen him in the past, in past years, kind of wilt against some really good big men. He's not doing that this year. Even against Zach Edey, he went straight up with Zach Edey. Now, Edey, he's impossible to stop. But Trace was there with him the entire game. He wasn't getting beaten. Edey was just shooting over him because he's got 8 inches on him. I mean, it's the kind of thing where he has become this excellent defender, whereas he put up numbers and blocks and steals and whatever in the past. But I feel like he's actually become a good defender now.
I think there's a few more storylines to talk about, and let's turn to a concern that I have. I'd like to get your opinion on it. I thought Indiana showed some fatigue from a schedule, from within the game, from the rotations. This isn't necessarily a criticism because I understand you had to win this game. This is important. You got to play players who are playing well. But I thought some of the attention to detail waned in the late first half.
It did.
When guys got tired. And, again, you saw a little bit of it, and then they just summoned a timeout with 2:50 to go. Woodson calls timeout, and they kind of got their air back to them. we've talked a lot about it. Yes, you want to play your guys. The bench has to step up to help some of their starters get some more rest. You can't be having 3-hour practices and everything, because those guys showed some fatigue to me at the end of that first half, which allowed a 14-point lead to go down to 3. I don't think it was execution or the play calls or the players purposely doing it. I just thought they were worn out and lost their focus.
Yeah, I was going
What
to
do
say,
you think?
when you're worn out, you lose focus, attention to detail, all that. It's natural. It's not. It's not one of those things where it's just like, well, it's specifically this guy. No, I mean, it's hard when you're tired to be at your best. And you look at the schedule, and they hammered Ohio State on a Saturday, flew to Maryland on a Tuesday, and just didn't have it. They played that really emotional, great game against Purdue on Saturday, came out tonight and ran out of gas. And it was pretty clear that guys across the board are running out of gas. I mean, Race Thompson's at about 60%, but he also is still getting his wind back. You could tell in game, he's still getting his wind. He looked dog tired at the end of the first half, looked dog tired at the end of the game. Trace Jackson-Davis even looked tired a couple times. He played 39 minutes. Jalen Hood-Schifino really looked tired late in the first half, and then late in the second half again. He played 37 minutes. Miller Kopp played 35, but he got that long rest when he got his 4th foul, so he looked pretty fresh at the end of the game. Trey Galloway at times was making mistakes with the ball and just kind of dribbling into bad situations where they had to back it out and restart the offense. I would have liked to have seen Malik Renew a little bit more. I would have liked to see Tamar Bates a little bit more. I think they really liked what Race Thompson was giving them defensively, and so they left him in. I think they felt like they needed their best ball handlers, which is why Tamar Bates didn't play that much. You saw George Geronimo get in the game for 1 minute, Caleb Banks for 4. They didn't look good. I mean, Geronimo, you can't really judge him because he was in for 1 minute, but Banks kind of got lost a couple times, and they said, nope, you're out. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen some bench guys in there a little bit more, specifically Renew especially. He got 14 minutes, but he looked like he could hang in that. He had 5 rebounds, 5 points in 14 minutes, was a +7. The team was good with him on the floor. I just think they like the matchups late with Race Thompson because he can play out on the floor a little bit more defensively.
Yeah, and I just, again, we've always talked about maybe the adjustments weren't made or they're a little slow. I thought the coaching staff's done a really good job the last 2 games of getting Indiana. Tonight they broke the press and attacked the press and got a couple baskets
it didn't really
when the press was
much.
available. They did some nice things running offense, getting elbow catches and TJD the ball in space has been a really nice adjustment. So I just thought the only issue tonight for me was the players got fatigued and they lost their focus. So then the other story, go ahead.
Well, I just say that now they're off till Saturday, so hopefully they can catch a win. But I mean, it's hard to explain just how tiring a game like that Purdue game is. It's emotional. You're energetic for it a day before it comes. Then you're energetic for it. Then you're energetic after it. It's not like you're just playing the game. It's all of this energy built up, and there is a letdown from that. It's why teams have letdowns after big games. It has nothing to do with desire or anything like that. They're just tired, and it's emotionally draining too. And you look at the guys who played really well against Purdue: Trey Galloway, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Tamar Bates. Bates didn't play much tonight, so you can't judge him. I thought Tamar played really well against Purdue in the time he was in there. But Galloway and Hood-Schifino were clearly tired tonight, and they played really well. They expended a lot of energy on Saturday. Then to have that quick bounce back, man, it's tough. You had 2 days to prepare for this game against a really good team. And let's be real, Rutgers hounds you. They wear you out.
They play great defense.
Physically and mentally, they wear you out. You were having to exert effort on both ends of the floor at all times, and that's going to tire you out. So that's when your reserves are really important. And Mike Woodson, I know he really wanted this game, so he didn't utilize them that much. I maybe would have gone to them when you were up a little in the first half, maybe just 1 or 2 guys, and then funnel them in and out. But it is what it is. They came out with the win, so you can't really argue with it. But it was clear those guys were real tired.
So before we end segment 1 and move on to some meaningful moments, the other storyline, I think, is that Indiana kept their poise. We talked about fatigue, but I think they kept their poise. When Rutgers made runs, Rutgers was physical. Rutgers changed up defenses. I thought they kept their poise and, for the most part, made good decisions. There was a few shots, a few sloppy turnovers, but they answered every run from the team that has been second, has been a top seed in the NCAA tournament, has had your number for a long time. I thought that is a really good sign for this team going forward, that they can win battles within the game. They didn't let one segment or two segments or the stress of the game get to them. They executed down the stretch, pulled out a nice win. It's a resume-building win, but I thought they played with poise even through the fatigue.
Even with how tired he was, Jalen Hood-Schifino and his offense not working, Jalen Hood-Schifino I thought was pretty within himself. Aside from a few decisions to shoot some jumpers that maybe weren't the best idea, I thought he played with veteran poise. And at this point of the season, guess what? Everybody's a veteran. If you've been playing, you're a veteran. So I thought he, that's what's expected of him with who he is. And I thought he really, really hung in there and hung tough.
So coming up on Assembly Call postgame show, we'll continue our breakdown of Indiana's win over Rutgers. We'll point out some meaningful moments that you might have missed, then go inside the numbers. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hi, this is AJ Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers!
For my friends from the meetup, I had to play AJ Moye. AJ Moye. Great defense tonight all around for your Indiana Hoosiers. But you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Ryan Phillips. We're awaiting bedtime at the Morris household for Jared to join us. But now it's time for the meaningful moment that you might have missed.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
Which is brought to you by our friends at the Hoosier Ticket Project, where they help individuals and families experience Indiana University athletic events in person for the first time through the generosity of alumni and fans. To learn more about how you can donate money or extra tickets to help create meaningful moments for other IU fans, visit HoosierTicketProject.org. That's HoosierTicketProject.org. And speaking of, the number 2 ranked women play the number 5 Iowa women on Thursday night. A meaningful moment is one where you would go watch them play in front of and make it a first ever sellout crowd in IU's women's basketball history. But to help the cause, we bought 8 tickets and donated them to Hoosier Ticket Project. We also bought 2 more to give away to listeners who can attend. To enter the contest, just email Jared. The address is jared@assemblycall.com. That's jared@assemblycall.com. Tell him your favorite player on the women's team and confirm that you can attend the game on Thursday, and we'll pick one lucky emailer to get 2 tickets. So that is a chance for you to go or don't buy some tickets and donate them on your own to follow our lead. Let's get that place packed for the number 2 IU women. Okay. So I think there's a lot of meaningful moments. I'm going to talk about one in general. I mentioned it before the break, is the multiple defenses that Rutgers played. They started out in man, then they went to a 2-3 zone, then they went to kind of a matchup type of zone. They went to some press, tried to get into the dribbler. They tried some zone press. Then after timeout, I believe early in the first half, they went to a 1-3-1, and that can wear on you as well as all the other things that we talked about, the fatigue setting in. And that's where I thought Indiana really showed some poise. It wasn't perfect execution against every one of those. Miller Kopp dribbled into a sideline and got the ball stolen, and that was like a 3-turnover ping-pong action there in the first half. There was a play where TJD got a nice pass against the 1-3-1, and he tried to whip it from the low post to the opposite wing, and he threw it to the Rutgers bench because there was no one there. But I thought they held their poise against changing defenses, which are designed to set you back mentally and get you off of your game. And it might have worked a little bit, but they were able to keep coming back.
Yeah, I think that the ability to be sort of flexible in game has been something we've seen during this streak of them winning 7 of 8 and figure out what's going on now. And the other thing is Mike Woodson is more willing to use his timeouts to adjust something if things aren't going well, which I think has changed over the last, 2 months or month and a half. But I really think that their ability to use Trace Jackson-Davis to get the defense to react to him in any situation is opening things up for other people. And that's why you're seeing Jalen Trevino have better games. That's why you're seeing Trey Galloway at home, at least, have better games. That's why you're seeing Tamar Bates have better games. It's all about getting the defense to react to something, regardless of what defense they're in. And then that reaction creates other opportunities. So, and Trace Jackson-Davis's ability to pass the ball is a huge part of that as well. So I think that the calm and poise they show against different defenses is what is changed here. Whereas against Iowa, they panicked when they changed defenses. This has been more of okay, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. We'll get moved. Maybe it'll be a bad possession or two, but we'll figure this out. And I feel like there's just that quiet confidence about it.
Yeah, they're very confident in what they're doing right now. That doesn't mean they'll always
feels like it's growing
perfectly.
Too.
Yeah, and it has to be to win 7 out of 8. Ryan, meaningful moments.
Yeah, I at the 12:36 mark, Rutgers cut the lead to 5 on a Reber it was a second chance layup for Dean Reber, and Indiana went down. Race missed a 3, then Palmquist missed a 3. Indiana came back down. There was a foul. They called a timeout. There was a media timeout, and off the next play, Miller Kopp got the ball in the corner wide open and knocked down a 3. And that was sort of like Rutgers was on a little bit of a run, and that extended it back out to an 8-point lead. And I felt like that kind of stabilized things. And then they only made one more field goal for about 8 minutes. And so that 3 wound up being really huge because instead of it being a 5-point game and Rutgers kind of going on a run, which they did after that, Kopp makes that 3. Then Trace Jackson-Davis gets an offensive rebound and put back. That made it 10. Indiana was up 10, and then Rutgers, chipped away at it. Indiana did get a free throw in there by Malik Renew and got a couple free throws from Jalen Hood-Schifino, but that was really it for the scoring for a long period of time. So that 3 wound up being huge for Indiana, and it just contributed again to Kopp's excellent night. Was him knocking down that one.
And those kind of plays and sequences are very important in a game because you're gonna have lulls, you're gonna give up runs, but you want your senior players to make big plays. And Miller did that tonight. Also, the teammates who found him also get credit for that as well.
Yeah.
But man,
and there was
Miller was all over the place.
We've
already talked a lot about him, but man.
There was one where Trace had it in the post and chucked it over to him, and Miller was coming off a cut, and he just wasn't squared up yet and ready for it. He was out of bounds. He had a foot out of bounds because you could see he was just turning to square up, and the ball got to him, and so he just wasn't ready for it. Trace waited a beat. He probably would have had another 3 there, but. Yeah, I thought as you mentioned, he's moving. They're moving him more within the offense and trying to get him some open looks, and it paid off tonight. 4 or 6 from 3. You get that, you'll take that any night.
Here's one, and we can talk about this player as well. It was Indiana was up 27-16, and Trey Galloway gets an outlet, and he's coming down the floor, and he calls for a post screen in transition, which is called a drag screen. So it's a high ball screen, but in basketball terminology, that's a drag screen up top. And his leadership and his ability to handle the basketball has really grown during this stretch. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that he would be able to handle the ball, execute some offense, come off the little handoff, the runners are working, but his ability to handle without turning the ball over, and I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'm not sure he turned it over a whole lot tonight. That has really helped without X being there, that now you could give Hood-Schifino a little bit of a break at times in order to play.
He didn't have a turnover. He didn't have a turnover.
So no turnovers. The kid just plays extremely hard and got that key rebound basket. So a little moment like that, a subtle moment where you just call for the right action and it led to a basket, that's the kind of things that are winning plays. That's the kind of thing that Coach Marlowe would really be happy about. And so, your thoughts on Trey Galloway?
Yeah, I thought he played a really good game. He didn't have the finishes at the rim that he had against Purdue and those big plays, but he did have that put back leg. I mean, until that, he was 1 of 4 from the field. And he wasn't putting up it wasn't a stats night for him. He had a couple of assists, but only 3 rebounds, 1 being the offensive rebound putback, and only 4 shots before that putback, and again 1 of 4. But I thought that his ability to sort of steady the offense on the floor and be able, as you said, to bring the ball up. He played 34 minutes too. He ate a big chunk of minutes, and again, I kind of would have liked to see a little bit more of Tamar Bates tonight in that spot to give him some rest because of all the energy that Trey expended on Saturday, and maybe morph that lineup, go Hood-Schifino and Bates, and then bring Galloway back in for Hood-Schifino and kind of rotate those guys through. But I guess, with the pressure defense from Rutgers, maybe Tamar Bates' ball handling just wasn't something they wanted on the floor. But I thought Tamar was decent when he was in there. But we didn't see much of him. And so Tamar had a great assist to Kopp, as we keep mentioning, on a 3, and then he knocked down a 3, hit 3 free throws. I really, again, would have liked to see him to give Galloway a break. But I do think Galloway is playing really well right now, and he's playing very steady. This was almost like a road game for him, a road game performance, a good road game performance for him, because we've seen at home he's been fantastic. And I thought he was solid tonight, and I thought he did what he was supposed to do, did what he needed to do, especially with one of the other reserve guys stepping up. He really did what he needed. And defensively, I thought he was real good, as he always is.
And now we welcome to the show the host, Jared Morris. Bedtime's over. Big win for our Indiana Hoosiers. And do you have any meaningful moments that you'd like to share, or opening statements, as it's a very happy night here on Assembly Call postgame?
It is good to be here. We beat Rutgers. That stupid streak is over. A tip of the cap to them, for obviously the performances that they've had over the last 4 or 5 years to have that streak. But, man, a big tip of the cap to our guys tonight. They brought it from the opening tip. I think obviously a lot of people were worried about the potential for a letdown. I texted you guys before the game. I just had a good feeling, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with the good feeling about this game, because
you
it seemed
totally right, though. Let's be real.
No, I was 100%.
We ignored it.
Yes, you did. You did, and that's good. But I was 100% right. The team came out ready to play. They basically led from wire to wire. I said it would be a convincing victory, and it was. This team did everything they needed to do to win the game. It was ugly at times, but that's what happens against Rutgers. But you beat the spread, you win by more than you're expected to, and you control the game basically the whole time against this program that has really given you fits. And I just have to give so much credit to Trayce Jackson-Davis. I thought this win happened. Do you want to know the meaningful moment for me? The Purdue press conference, when Trayce Jackson-Davis was clearly looking ahead to Rutgers, not, worrying too much. The fans stormed the court against Purdue. The players didn't seem overly impressed with their own achievements. They'd beaten Purdue before. Now they had to look ahead to a team they hadn't beaten. And I thought Trayce came out tonight on a mission to win this game, and led with the kind of physicality that you have to have. His numbers speak for themselves. 20 points, 18 boards, 6 assists. I mean, it's just, they're the kind of silly numbers he's been putting up all season. But for 3+ years, we've asked for Trayce Jackson-Davis in games like this to step up and lead with toughness, and lead with production, lead by example. He's doing it all, and so he becomes the first Hoosier with 2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. And, of course, one of the narratives coming into the season was, all right, but are these kind of empty numbers? Well, now he's winning meaningful games while he's putting up these numbers. And look, it's still early February. This is a program that's about competing for titles and making runs in March, and so the story is still to be written. But you can't ask for anything more than what you've gotten from Trayce Jackson-Davis so far. And I just think his mentality and his focus on this game helped Indiana avoid what we've seen so often, which is a letdown after a big win. And I think that's a huge hurdle for this team to overcome. And, I felt confident in them, maybe a little bit before the evidence was there, but this is the kind of win that helps you grow confidence in the team, legit confidence that they're going to come out and be ready for these matchups. So just really proud of him. All the guys, I thought Miller Kopp was fantastic tonight. I don't want to go over a lot of the points that you guys have made, but that's my big one. To me, this is, these are the games Trayce Jackson-Davis came back to win against Purdue, against Rutgers, and he did it tonight. Just really proud of him, really proud of the whole team.
So let's go inside some numbers, and really, from a stat perspective, it's not really a beautiful game for Indiana. Some bad shooting in the second half, some 14 turnovers, 15 assists to 14 turnovers. I thought gave up some offensive rebounds. I'm not sure how bad that hurt us points-wise, but it seemed a lot worse watching it. But the thing that I like, guys, and I want to get your opinion on is usually Indiana wins these games when they play really, really well. They just won a game against a really tough team where they just played well. There was nothing spectacular tonight. Obviously,
okay.
Trace, it was okay. And that's the Indiana basketball team that we need to see, both at home and on the road. When you don't have your A game, you're still winning basketball games. And that, to me, is the main number that I want to talk about is the percentages aren't there. The 66 points wasn't a great output. Points per possession, all that stuff was just okay. And Indiana wins an important game. That has to be a really good sign for where this program is right now.
They
I will push back on.
Jared.
I'm going to push back on one thing. I think getting 1.065 points per possession against this Rutgers defense is actually pretty good. I think that's actually
not bad.
I mean,
right,
but
I get what Coach is saying, though. I get what Coach is saying.
Yes, no. Coach is right. And look, I thought
we didn't outplay Rutgers defense. The offense didn't just take over and blow out Rutgers defense. Rutgers defense we played good against it, but it wasn't
thing where you can say Rutgers
right. It was
didn't
good.
Show up and we cruised.
We didn't have a 50-point half against Purdue where everything was going down, right? And 70, so.
No, agreed. And that's what I mean. So to
yeah.
still do that and be over a point per possession against a defense that in Big Ten play, was holding people to 0.96. Their adjusted defensive efficiency is 87. I mean, this is an elite defensive team. And so, I think to get over, and obviously a lot of that was done early in the game. Indiana really jumped out early and was able to do some scoring early. But I thought that was big. I mean, Coach, to your point, I think we saw, especially in the second half, continued issues with rebounding. I thought that was, if there was anything that really kind of got me frustrated, was probably there. And kind of that, that gap in the second half where Rutgers made their little run. There were too many times when there would be a live rebound and guys were kind of standing around, didn't box out. I thought early on we did that.
It looked like fatigue to me.
Yeah, no, they did. They did look a little bit fatigued, and so I think that's maybe the one thing that you would kind of nitpick there. But I mean, it's an Indiana Rutgers game. It's not about numbers.
It's going to be ugly. Yeah,
it's about toughness. It's about Miller Kopp diving on the floor for loose balls. It's about Trey Galloway hustling in and getting that offensive rebound late. That's where games like this are won or lost. Yeah. To me, I mean, the big stat line is, Trace and Miller, able to produce on the offensive end. That was huge. Other than that, I mean, I don't know that there's going to be a ton of numbers that are really going to jump out at you. Yeah.
15 assists on 22 made field goals. They were moving the ball. They were getting it to the open guy, especially early. I mean, that was the first half that they relied on that. I'd also say that they out-rebounded Rutgers, and it probably didn't feel like it. I mean, there was 35-31 in the end. Rutgers had 11 offensive rebounds, but Indiana had 9 offensive rebounds. 2 of those came late on the same play. But Indiana did out-rebound Rutgers, and I thought that they limited second-chance opportunities. Indiana had 13 on second-chance points, and Rutgers had 14. They're pretty even there. Points in the paint, they got annihilated at points in the paint when they played Rutgers the first time. 24 for Rutgers, 28 for Indiana. So all of those tough guy, situations, the tough guy, loose ball, dive on the floor, energy things. I thought Rutgers had a lot of bounces go their way late. Just like that Miller Kopp dove on the floor, lost the ball. Yeah. They wound up with 2 guys under the basket. It's a bad bounce that happens. You applaud the effort, not necessarily always the result. And you'd like to not have that happen, but there's really no way to prevent something like that. But I thought that the team was locked in. They played, and I thought in that last 10 minutes when it was clear that a lot of the key guys were exhausted. I don't think Trace was. I think Trace looked fine pretty much the entire. It's just hard for him to score against Rutgers when they crowd the paint that way and have Amore, who's a pretty good defender, right there. So the other guy, it's on the other guys to step up and do things, and they were all just dead tired. But again, despite that, you tough out the win and you get it done. And that's all that matters in the end. We can talk about it, whether it's pretty, whether you ran the right offense, but you win the game, especially in the Big Ten Conference against a good team. That's all that matters in the end. We can nitpick little things and say they need to improve this for the next game, but whatever they did this game worked, and that's all that matters. They beat a good team, they figured it out, and they finished. And in the end, I would rather have an ugly win than a pretty loss.
Yeah, and so the offense, let's go back to the offense efficiency numbers too. I know Rutgers plays great defense. They had multiple defenses, and that played a part a little bit. And you have to give credit to Rutgers for being a solid defensive program. But I thought Indiana ran good stuff. I thought the players – the only problem was some fatigue and some decisions within that fatigue. Some shots that were air balls that maybe you could have had one more pass. Jalen took a couple, Race took a couple. That's going to drive your overall numbers down. And our also offensive efficiency was still, as you pointed out, Jared, pretty good against a Rutgers team. To me, the best thing about the last two games, guys, is moving shooters, getting out in transition, getting those points when you can, because you know other teams are going to be tough and locked down defensively, especially the top teams like Purdue and like Rutgers. They're good coaches in this league, and IU is countering that. And I think the offense tonight was really not Rutgers stopping us to 66 or to 1.065, but I thought – if we make some better decisions in that, we even have better offensive efficiencies on the game.
And I will say this too. One thing that we know about Rutgers games is really kind of no matter how they start, they're always going to turn it into a grinder, right? And so that's why I think the start of games against them is really important, kind of before they set that tone. Right. That's where I was really impressed. I mean, I think that's just like in the Purdue game. In a lot of ways, I think that's where the game was won for Indiana is the way they started. They came out defending with their hair on fire. They end up with a 30-16 lead. That lead could have been bigger, but that one guy gets hot from three. They made a bunch of tough shots. I mean, that's the thing to me that was so impressive tonight is this team came out with a mentality to win from the tip. They get that big lead. They're up by 14. Rutgers outscores you by 8 from that point on. But you've built that cushion that you can then nurse. And I think that's really important against a team like this because points are just going to get harder and harder to come by as you get fatigued and their defense gets set. So credit to the coaches, and again, credit to the leadership, Trace Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson, for having this team ready to play. Miller Kopp, too. They were all ready to play. And I thought that the first 8 to 12 minutes were so important in establishing a tone and building a lead that, you could kind of, nurse a little bit when the game kind of ground to a halt there as we knew it would.
Well, and let's also credit the coaches for getting focused on this one, and they were focused on this, not their win. It's easy to feel real good about yourself when you beat the number one team in the country, our rival. There's a lot of trash talk in that game, and there were some chippy moments. It's easy to feel really good about yourselves. They got them focused on Rutgers quickly, and they came out like they were focused on Rutgers, not looking over their shoulder. And so credit to the coaching staff for that 100%.
And there's this whole meme, right, with IU basketball, like we're back. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back now?
It's like Texas in football.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I mean is like it's not the massive win against North Carolina or beating Purdue. It's winning a game like this, and that's not taking anything away from Rutgers. They're a legit top 25 team, so it's an impressive win no matter what. But it's the backing up a big win with another solid effort, right? That's almost as much of a brick in the we're back wall as any of the other stuff because it's losses in these types of games that have held this program back from building any type of momentum.
We talked about that early. It's following up the Purdue win with Michigan last year and getting blown off your own floor. I mean, it's this team, it's this program shooting itself in the foot constantly after big moments and taking huge steps back, and they didn't do that tonight. You just have to win this game. Like that's
yes.
I don't care how you
Absolutely.
come off the Purdue game. Just win the game. Just win the game. And
put positive streaks together. 7 out of 8 in the Big Ten, no matter what year, is a positive streak that Indiana hasn't had for a while.
And
the one is it 8 out of 9 now or 7 out of 8?
7 out of 8.
And
we were 1-4 at one point, right?
And the one loss in there was a Tuesday after a Saturday where you had to fly to Maryland. And look, they didn't play well in that game, and it was not a good performance to look back on. Even looking back, you can't say, well, they were no, they just didn't show up for that one. It's fine. They played hard, but they were not focused. But still, it's the Big Ten. You're going to have games like that, and you're going to have games where your freshman point guard looks like a freshman point guard. So you look back at this streak, and in those 8 games, this has been a different team than it was for a solid month, where even if they won a couple games, they did not look good. And it was that Arizona game, the Kansas game. I mean, there were big time failures in what this team was doing. And they've turned it around. And the credit goes to everybody. It goes to Trace Jackson-Davis for carrying the team for long stretches. It goes to Jalen Hood-Schifino for rising, getting healthy and rising to who we think he should become. The role players have all stepped up. Tamar Bates, Trey Galloway, Miller Kopp have all had great games. It's getting Brace Thompson healthy enough that he's at least out there defensively. But it's also
coaches have adjusted.
I was about to say, it's also on the coaching staff, adjusting what you're doing to fit the personnel you have, not the personnel you wish you had. And so I think that's a huge thing, and that's a huge part of college basketball. You're not signing free agents who can fit exactly the role you want. You're recruiting guys who are going to be flawed and having to figure out how to win with them. So, everybody deserves the credit for this. It's been an excellent turnaround, and today's game, I said it at the meetup. We were talking to everybody. It's like, well, if they beat Rutgers, then we know it's real, because the couple of the teams they beat are bottom feeders in the Big Ten. You beat Rutgers, you know this turnaround is real, because not only do they have your number, but they're also really good this year. And they beat them. It's real. This is a really good team.
I got a couple things before we move on to segment 3. Jared, to go back about the starts, I'd much rather have really good starts and build that cushion and then hold on. And we talked about poise. I think they showed poise. But is there anything to be concerned about that we've built some big leagues against teams, and then the second half, our shooting percentage has not been very good. Our offense, we only had 27 points against Purdue in the second half. Today, I think it was 32% shooting from the field, only 28 points in the second half. Is there anything to be concerned with, or was that just a flow of two tough games?
I think if we were playing lesser opponents, maybe. I think the fact that, Purdue is the number one team and we know how good Rutgers is, it's a 40-minute game, and you're not going to blow either one of those teams out.
Yeah,
like I don't think that's really in the cards. Yeah.
Right.
So,
I agree.
To me, no, there's not really a concern there. I think it's more enthusiasm at the way you're starting games, given how much of a struggle starts of games have been for this program. They've kind of now, it's more of a thing they've done at home. So can they take that on the road? But this was a massive 2-game, home stretch. And so to be able to come out with 2 starts like that and capitalize on the crowd and keep them in it, that's exactly what you have to do to win these games.
And then last, holding Rutgers to 39.7% shooting, 32% from 3. When they really had some guys shoot the 3, they had the Palmquist guy who averages 1.9, got 9 points in the first half, and then Andre Hyatt had a couple threes early in that first half. So they were hitting some shots that kept that game close. But this is another example, guys, of Indiana's defense setting the tone. There were times when the defense wasn't great. They overhelped. They triple-teamed the backup post at the very end of the first half to give up a 3.
Just not communicating.
But
Didn't
every
locate
game,
shooters well in transition either.
Yeah, and so those are the things that coaches are going to look at in film. But overall, you hold a Big Ten team to 60 and 39.7% and get some turnovers and get out and run. This team has built on defense, and since the losing streak has found its niche defensively, and now the offense is opening up and moving. That is just fun to watch a team really take away everything. And I got a little nervous that it was, oh my gosh, no names are hitting shots again, right?
Yeah, Coach, I'll say this. They were 6 of 11 from 3 in the first half, Rutgers
Right.
was. They got 18 of their 35 points, more than half their points from the three-point line. In the second half, 2 of 14. As ugly as things got offensively for a while, Indiana's defense never let up. They had a couple bad possessions here and there, but they held Rutgers at 2 of 14 from 3 in the second half and 32% from the field. If Rutgers goes 40% from the field in the second half, they win the game. So the defense was there. It was a constant. Again, might not have been pretty all the time, but they gave up 7 offensive rebounds in the second half. That's rough. But you know what? They played hard. They played pretty smart, and they were able to discourage Rutgers. Rutgers was, while Indiana was worse in the second half offensively, so was Rutgers. They only scored 25 points, and they scored 35 in the first half.
And I'll tell you the other key defensively as we kind of wrap up numbers. Indiana was able to play extremely physical defense while committing only 13 fouls.
Yep.
And only giving Rutgers 10 free throws. So, talk about the formula for victory. Indiana makes 17 free throws. Rutgers shoots 10. That's how you win games like this. And I really think, to me, that's been one of the biggest developments over these last couple games. I really felt it in the Purdue game. I felt it here. Indiana really able to play that tough physical defense. I mean, Trey Galloway picked up his first foul late in the second half. That's huge because he and Jalen just, they can't pick up fouls, but they were able to play really well defensively on the perimeter without doing that. So Miller Kopp today was the only guy who got into foul trouble, and good Lord, I mean, he was just, he played at another level in terms of effort tonight. This was maybe Miller Kopp's best game as a Hoosier. I have to think back a little bit more, but
I mean maybe Syracuse last year, but that was all based on
that was his best game as a scorer. But I mean on both ends.
No, I agree.
He defended well.
I'm saying that's
too.
the only one you can make the argument.
Yeah.
Save those for the next segment because I think we're going to go
next segment
right back
down. Next segment
is
easy.
So,
I think Miller's defense has come a long way though.
Certainly
from when he stepped on campus.
Yes.
All right, coming up on Assembly Call, we're going with our game balls, our Hoosier Hustle Award, and a lingering question or two. That's next here on the Assembly Call, so stick with us.
Hey, this is Deron Davis. And what's the only thing better than dominating a Duke big man in the post? Is celebrating with friends afterwards. Join Gerard, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Hall call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show with your host, Coach Tom Sony and Gerard. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night on our website, assemblycall.com. Also, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 9,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. So join for free today at join.assembly.call. That's join.assemblycall.com. So we're breaking down Indiana's 66-60 win over Rutgers. I'm here with Jared Morris and Ryan Phillips. So it's now time for our game balls, which are presented by our friends at Bloom Environmental, where Allie and James and the crew help folks in southern and south central Indiana maintain healthy air quality in their home or business. Learn more at bloomenviro.com. And when you mention this ad, you get 23% off their testing services. That's 23 in honor of TJD. All right, fellas, game balls. Ryan, we'll start with you. Jared pointed to himself.
No, I'm open. I'm calling for the ball.
Yeah, no, you're like Miller Kopp. We're going to pass on you and go to somebody else.
I'm not shot faking. I'll shoot it.
I'm going to say I know there's going to be a lot of momentum for Miller Kopp in this one. I'm going with Trace Jackson Davis. I think 20 and 18, 6 assists. He did have the 5 turnovers, and he tried a lot of little pocket passes that were not necessarily a great idea. But 20 and 18, setting the becoming the first Indiana player with 2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds, which we knew he was going to do this season at some point, and he's well on his way to becoming the all-time rebounding leader. And he's going to climb up that scoring chart very quickly over the next few weeks. He was the best player on the floor, I think, for either team, even in a game where his scoring number, by his standards, pretty pedestrian. 20 points. Where are you getting those? Where's the rest?
Pretty good
of it,
against
Trace?
Rutgers, though.
Yeah,
context
matters. And the context does matter. And it's Rutgers clamps down on the post. It's on everybody else to step up, and we got a couple guys to play pretty well tonight. But Trace Jackson Davis, the game ball, 20 points, 18 rebounds, and 6 assists.
Yeah,
Jared.
Thanks, Tom. There's two.
You're welcome.
There's 2 moments I wanted to point out for Trace that I thought were huge. One is actually the play where he got his 2,000th point. Indiana was up 52-44, and if you guys recall, he kind of did like a little pivot, and he was really close to traveling. So right before he traveled, he just threw the ball up on the rim, but he knew where it was going to go when it missed, and then he went in for the follow dunk. It was just such a smart, instinctive play by him to do that, to avoid the turnover. But I thought the most impressive stretch of the game for Trace, Indiana had that big lead. They play really bad the final 3 minutes of the first half, and Rutgers cuts it to 3. And then Rutgers comes right out, and they, Spencer hit a 3, and it's 41-40. And it's kind of that moment where it's hanging in the balance a little bit. And, is Rutgers going to take control? Trey scored the next 4. He drew a foul on Omoruyi. How do you pronounce his last name? It's Amori. Oh, why am I struggling with this?
Amori, isn't it?
Amori, that's what it is. Amori, yes. Okay, so he draws the foul on Amori, hits both free throws, then has a spin move dunk, and all of a sudden it's 45-40. And Indiana kind of kept that. I'm not sure how much closer Rutgers got after that. Rutgers might have cut it to 5 or cut it to 4 at one point, but that little stretch right there immediately gave Indiana the cushion back. And that's the kind of thing Trace did tonight. You know, when plays needed to be made, he was there to make them because he was not going to lose this game. So, you know, it's the kind of moment that it felt like Yogi had a lot, you know, his senior year. It's like plays need to be made. Who's going to step up? Your senior leader. And that's what Trace did again. So, and you know, just a terrific night for him and an emphatic game ball for Trace.
I'm going to go Miller Kopp because it's already been decided by you two that Trace gets it, and rightfully so. I don't disagree but Miller Kopp just was the difference maker, and you're going to need consistent play from some wing scoring and some other people to really advance in the Big Ten tournament and that. And if Miller can be consistent, the coaching staff can continue to move him and make it easier for him to get open, he's going to be a real pleasure to watch down the stretch. But, yes, Trace Jackson Davis has put this team on his back and just is the best, hardest. He's the leader. He's doing everything, and it shows up every night in his stat line. All right, let's go to the Hoosier Hustle Award.
Hi, this is native Hoosier Anthony Leal. I pride myself on hustling every second I'm on the court, so it is an honor to present this episode's Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Based in the hometown of IU legend Calbert Cheaney, Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Their goal is to provide whatever level of safety and protection you're looking for. And just like hustle can't be measured by stats, but is often the difference between winning and losing, the prevention of bad outcomes can't be adequately measured either, but it can still have a huge impact on your bottom line and peace of mind. So let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. That's evansvillesecurityservices.com.
All right, Jared, lead us off. Who gets your Hoosier Hustle Award?
Well, it is definitely Miller Kopp. Certainly seeing a lot less of the why is Miller Kopp playing discussion. I mean, goodness gracious, if you can't understand the value Miller Kopp provides to this team by now, I don't know what to tell you. But I thought there were a couple moments for Miller that really stood out to me. You know, one is when Indiana was up 47-40, and Miller makes that great cut to the basket. Trace finds him for the bucket. He hits the layup, and then he immediately goes down on the other end, pokes the ball away from a Rutgers guy, dives to try to get it, and that's one that we were talking about. It just happens to go back to the Rutgers guy. But it was just – that was the night for Miller. You know, like we're noticing a lot more movement with the shooters. You know, guys are, you know, cutting a little bit more, and they're able to move and relocate and do some more things. And I just thought he was just active. And the three that he made, you know, it's 49-44. Again, kind of felt like a little moment where Rutgers might be able to see some momentum. Coming out of the timeout, he hits the three and puts it up 52-44. And so, you know, it was a night where Miller scores 18 points, and the shooting is great. But I thought, just like Trace, this is a game that was going to be won not with pretty shooting, but with just tough, rugged defense. And I thought, you know, he defended Spencer pretty well in the half court, you know, most of the time when he was on him, and he just played hard and played tough and was in the right spot and forced turnovers. Like that's what I mean. You know, I think he has scored better. I just am not sure he's ever played better. And you know, that's what you see from Rutgers. Like what has defined this run for Rutgers basketball is guys like Caleb McConnell and Geo Baker and Ron Harper Jr. just going all out for 40 minutes in these games. And that's what Indiana brought to it tonight. And I thought Trace and Miller in particular really led the way there.
So a couple things real quick, and I'll get to you, Ryan. There's that steal he made late too that was big, right? In the last 3 or 4 minutes there in the corner. Right, and then, you know, I might have to turn into the field of 68 and listen to Geo Baker complain about his team getting their ass kicked on the field of 68. He always says Indiana's weak. Well, buddy, we just showed you Geo.
Well, hopefully he gives us credit, because the truth is he was right. People weren't afraid of Indiana, but they're going to start being afraid if Indiana plays like this every game.
All right, there's better ways to say it. But anyway.
Maybe.
Coach, you're nothing if not articulate. No, I'm going with Miller Kopp too. The guy was in a stance all night, was up in guys, he's up on Mulcahy, he was up whoever he was guarding. He was pushing him as far out from the and one of the differences with Indiana's defense at that Penn State game has been how far they're pushing opponents out on the floor to start possessions.
Yes.
And not being reactive, but being proactive of getting out into those ball handlers and making them start further away. It's the same as these guys who were giving Indiana token pressure, just to sort of throw things off a little bit and get aggressive. And they have the ability and athleticism to do it. And if you watch the Penn State game, they're allowing Penn State to get into whatever they wanted at any spot that they wanted. So, and Miller was, set an example tonight as a leader, as a veteran by, being super active defensively and going on the floor and doing that. You saw him do that against Purdue too. I mean, Miller Kopp's defense has improved, as I said earlier, tremendously since he stepped on campus last year. And he's never going to be an outstanding, all Big Ten defensive player. But he's working with what he's got, and he's doing an excellent job. And he deserves to be, lauded for that by everybody, by fans, all the fans that are questioning why he's on the floor. There are a lot of reasons that you don't see on the box score that he's on the floor. And everybody on that team respects him and likes him and listens when he talks. And that has a lot to do with it, too.
And so Miller Kopp's going to get our Hustle Award. I'll just bring up Galloway again. I think his defense has helped push those teams out. He was able to lock down on that Spencer kid for the most part at times where they switched him onto him when he started getting open. So he's not only a secondary ball handler, but he's a primary defender now. On he and Jalen Hood-Schifino can really put that pressure on. And that helps Kopp be better too, because it buys him a little bit of time on the flight of passes and closeouts and things like that. So I think, honorable mention for Galloway there, but no doubt Kopp hustled his way. I like the way he's moving. That back cut layup that you talked about and hustling down the floor to get open in
Smart,
transition.
savvy,
There's just so much
play.
to Kopp's game right now.
He's doing more off the dribble too.
Yep.
Which is nice to see.
So what's that? His third Hoosier Hustle Award, which puts him in a tie for second with, you got Geronimo, X, Race, Kopp, all with three that follow.
I thought
Galloway's
Xavier
five,
is still tied for second, and he hasn't played.
Yeah, seriously. Get back soon, X. Take back the lead.
Before we go to lingering questions, so I want to talk about a couple nice, smooth moves we're seeing from Indiana early in transition. Trace Jackson Davis goes up and under what I thought was a absolutely heroic shot, and then Jalen Hood-Schifino gets fouled. The ball touches nothing but a little bit of twine on the way down. There's a guy we haven't talked about tonight who, again, didn't have a great shooting night, but he impacts winning in a variety of ways, and that shot was just a circus shot. But Jalen Hood-Schifino continues to impress. We need him to score, and luckily Kopp was there to pick up on a night when he didn't. But, boy, he's just a nice player. We got to appreciate him while we have him as well.
I thought he was rock solid tonight. I mean, Caleb McConnell guarded him a lot. That's, maybe the best on-ball defender in the Big Ten. This was probably not a game where Jalen was going to score a lot, which is why Miller's contributions were so important, because you needed that second scorer to step up. But, man, I just, one of the things I love watching about Jalen is as he's bringing the ball up, his handles are terrific. I mean, his ability to dribble the ball, keep it away from the defender. I mean, he almost never gets the ball poked away from him. Like, he'll make some bad passes, but he's able to dribble the ball and always keep his head up and go behind his back and between his legs and everything that he needs to do. And it always feels, like sometimes when Trey dribbles, it kind of feels like it's a little bit out of control. And Jalen always feels always in control with his handle. And that's such an important skill for a freshman to have, to be able to beat some of the pressure that Indiana's getting defensively. It's one of those little things that he brings to the court that, especially with X out, has just been so important. So, 2 for 9, not able to get a lot going offensively, but I still thought he played a pretty good game. Was solid defensively, did the things he needed to do, and didn't press. He didn't press and start forcing a bunch of shots. I thought most of the shots he took, maybe outside of one or two, were within the flow of the offense. It was a good, solid game for him as a point guard, and essentially taking what the defense is going to give, and still being ready to play on the other end and not getting frustrated.
Ryan, any thoughts on Jalen's play?
Yeah, I thought that he forced his offense a little bit, but a lot of that's fatigue, as we talked about earlier. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. I think that it was not his best offensive game, but you're right. He was being defended very tough by a very tough defensive team, and he's still a freshman. I mean, it's so easy to forget that after a great performance like Purdue or whatever. But, I thought that he forced his shots sometimes, but he was the point guard. He guided him to a really tough win, and you're right about the ball handling, Jared. He never gets flustered with that, no matter how he's playing. There have been some games where he's bobbled it a little bit here and there, but again, he's 18. He's going to be just fine.
So now it's time for a lingering question, and we addressed the one that I have, which is again, are we going to have legs, and the fatigue issue of playing so many minutes from guys we need on the court. We had to get the season righted. We need to win games. We need the bench guys to be able to come in, and the coaching staff needs to trust them. So it's a two-way street. They have to play better, practice better for me, and then coach needs to trust him a little bit too when he's ready to. But this isn't a criticism of Woodson necessarily, but you do wonder as the season winds down and you play 3 games in the Big Ten tournament, hopefully, when does the tank empty? That's my lingering question, because everything else right now is moving in a very, very, very positive direction. Any other lingering questions?
Yes.
Or
My
thoughts on
lingering
that?
Yeah, no. I mean, it does. It kind of piggybacks off of what you just said, Coach. It is really important that Indiana was able to make hay with the schedule that they just had and win a lot of the home games, because 4 of the next 5 games are on the road. And and those 4 road games are all to teams that may end up in the NCAA tournament. Michigan coming up Saturday, then Northwestern, then home to Illinois, which I'm guessing the home game against Illinois will be tougher than the road game was, and then Michigan State and Purdue on the road. And so those are really tough games. And this has been a team that their last 2 road performances against Maryland and Minnesota were not very good, sandwiched within a lot of really good home games. So, Indiana's 8-5. We've put ourselves in a good position. We're sitting up there in second place in the Big Ten. But now things get real. And I mean, look, if you're going to actually compete for a Big Ten title or to finish second or third in the conference, you got to go win at least 2 of these road games, maybe 3 of them. That's what a great Indiana team would do. I think right now this is a very good team. And I think they'll win, at least 1 of these road games. And I think as long as you win 1 and beat Illinois and go 2-3 in the next 5, you're probably okay. But how good is this team? I think we're going to find out, because if they can go grind out some wins against Michigan, who's playing better, against Northwestern, that's obviously a very good team, that's going to tell us even more. And so we learned a lot, I think, about this team by how they played here at home. And now the difficulty level ratchets up even more. Even if the opponents aren't as good, the difficulty level raises because a lot of these games are on the road.
Yeah,
is this program ready? That's the one question to me they haven't really answered yet in Big Ten play, outside of the great performance against Illinois.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Michigan, for Indiana to win that game, Jalen Hood-Schifino has to have a hell of a game. And he doesn't have to put up 25 points, but his offense has to be better than it was tonight, better than it was against Maryland, and probably better than it was against Ohio State. He's got to be really good. And then you got to have, of course, on the road, you got to have your role players play to their level. And so those are the 2. I think Malik Renew is going to be really important in that game as well. So asking your freshman to step up big on the road against a team that's playing pretty well, has some size, and has given Indiana some trouble. That's a big task. So Michigan's going to be a very interesting game on Saturday.
They're very hungry, and they're a wounded animal too. They're in desperation mode to get into the tournament. They got to string 6 out of 7, 6 out of 8 down the stretch. So we're going to get
Howard's
their
back, right?
best.
Is he back?
Yes, he is back. So those are all concerns going forward. But man, winning the games like we have, 7 out of 8, it's a lot better to have those lingering questions after that run of basketball. And from a bracketology standpoint, nothing is assured yet. There's still too many games going. But when you beat the number 2 team and the number 1 team, you get quad 1 wins back-to-back like that. The numbers aren't going away. Those numbers aren't going away. Indiana is safe, barring a disaster right now, and that's the importance of those 2 wins, that they can have a slip-up, and it really isn't going to move them a whole lot in the pecking order. So, well, we got a great week coming up for Indiana athletics. We talked earlier about the number 2 IU women playing the number 5 Iowa women on Thursday. Pack Assembly Hall, scream loud, doing the work. Our podcast will be immediately after. Kathy and Andy Bottoms will be doing that. We haven't made a decision yet, Jared, right, on AC radio, because that game's going to be
Now, we'll talk about it. If we do
right?
AC radio, it's going to be later. So
You guys love that when we do that super late.
hey, the women's basketball program gets the priority right now, given how good.
No,
they
I'm
are.
not
So
saying it's a negative.
I think-
I'm just saying when we actually
I
do
think-
this show and it's late.
No,
you
no,
guys
I think
you
we
guys
probably
never
will
complain
do.
about it.
Last time there wasn't. I didn't think there was a whole lot more to talk about. I think there is now. Kind of zoom out a little bit. We've got this road trip coming up. So I think we probably will do it, but it'll be after doing the work. So just stay tuned.
What's
did
the
you talk
time of
about
the
the
game?
ticket? Did you talk about the ticket giveaway
Yes.
for the women's game?
Yes, we did.
So cool. Send me an
Yeah,
email.
yep.
Yep. Okay.
Do you want to go back over? Do you want to go back over what they need to send?
Yeah, just send me an email, jared@assemblycall.com. Tell me your favorite player. Confirm that you're going to be available for the game, and we will choose someone to use our 2 tickets for that game. Man, those ladies deserve as much fan support and the biggest crowd possible for that game. So be there, boo Caitlin Clark on every touch, and let's help get Terry Morin's crew another victory.
So you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Remember to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. Use the promo code HOME at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And, guys, it's time for the last call. I'm just going to add it's just been a wonderful run, and it was really good seeing everyone this weekend. Met a lot of fans of ours that have been around for a while, met some new people, and it's always good to catch up with both of you. We missed Andy, and I was fortunate enough to spend a weekend with him in Cincinnati, but it's just an outstanding weekend. And then, obviously, a couple wins. Women win at Purdue on Sunday. Thank you for everyone for coming to the meetup and everyone who supports us through the community and through these shows. Ryan, your last call.
I just thought it was a good win to grind that out, especially following up the Purdue win. Miller Kopp played really, really well, and added to what they were doing. And TJD had another great night, and congratulations for him. His career has been unbelievable, and living up to all of those expectations and playing really, really well. So great for Indiana, great for Trace Jackson Davis to eclipse that 2,000 point, 1,000 rebound barrier. And, we're going to enjoy the rest of the year watching him climb those ladders and move past, all-time greats on those lists. And so I would just say enjoy it while he's here. Enjoy Jalen Hood-Schifino while he's here as well. And hopefully on Saturday they can bring it back and take out Michigan, another team that's given them some trouble.
Jared.
Last Tuesday we came on here after the Maryland game, and everybody was a little bit frustrated at the way Indiana had played. It snapped the losing streak or snapped the winning streak. Indiana was 6-5, and we knew that we were coming back for a really important homestand. At a minimum, you had to split. But boy, if you could win both of these, in what we thought were going to be really tough games and what were really tough games, boy, it would be huge for momentum on the season. And Indiana didn't just win both games. They led the Purdue game for 39 minutes and 11 seconds, and they led this game for 37 minutes. I mean, they were in control of both of those games. Even though the other teams came back, they never took the lead. It never seesawed back and forth. Indiana was in control the whole way. They got off to good starts. They made plays down the stretch. They were tough mentally and physically. This was everything that you can ask for from a homestand where you're playing 2 teams above you in the standings that are both ranked, and you win both of them. That is what Indiana basketball should be. That is what Assembly Hall should be. And I just think it's another very, very important step for this program on its way back, whatever back means. But just the way that they won these games, not really doing anything spectacular outside of Trace Jackson Davis continuing one of the most impressive stretches in IU basketball history, frankly. But outside of his individual play, this team just played solid basketball and beat, a potentially great team and a really good team in Rutgers. So just really happy with the way these 80 minutes of basketball went. And they've set themselves up now to not have to be desperate going on the road. But now you can go on the road with some confidence and a little wind in your sails. And boy, if you can start winning some of these games, a whole lot more things start to seem possible. But couldn't ask for anything more. Excellent homestand. Just really proud of the guys and the way they responded, and really have just thoroughly enjoyed watching them play for each of these two games.
Well said. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall.com. And don't forget to go join assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music you hear on the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logo. And thank you for listening. We'll be back again Thursday to talk with you about the women's team. Until then,
take it from me, Juwan Morgan. Keep your elbows in, eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Catch me if you can, Coach T.
Coach Tom.
Winning.
Nice pull with Juwan Morgan. The last time Indiana beat Rutgers, Juwan had an awesome game at home.
Glad to hear it.
Race Thompson was the only person who had beaten Rutgers before tonight.
They're replaying the Purdue-Indiana game right now on BTN. So if you might be interested in that.
That was a fun game to relive.
Yeah.
What I need to read these cop comments that you were talking about in the chat.
Somebody said he was just. They said that they should put Miller out there for every postgame presser.
He just seems like a fun dude.
He does. Seems like he's a good dude, and everyone likes him.
He is. That's why I think he kept playing through some of the struggles.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
Where are we?
Thanks
so
for
we
joining
are
us. Go
20th in KenPom, 18th in offense, 41st in defense. Rutgers is still 16th, and they're still second in defense.
Has it updated already?
Yeah.
I think it has.
And
sometimes it updates really
relatively
fast.
soon.
Yeah, stayed kind of the same, unless it hasn't updated. It has our record updated, so that's usually the indication.
Yeah, it usually updates all of it at once.
So 20th is where we are.
Yep.
Ahead of Xavier and Maryland.
We had Indiana as a 5 seed, and the 4 seed is St. Mary's.
Oh, God, Coach. Why would you do that to us?
That's right. DeCourcy had us as a 6 seed playing Kentucky, number 11. Andy had us as a 5 with Virginia as the 4.
Yeah, which would really tug at Jared's heartstrings.
Yes, Jim, we are moving up that seed list, but we'll hang out at 5 for a while.
Yeah.
We might have to win 2 or 3 more in a row to move up to another seed line.
My sister was at the UConn Marquette game tonight and said UConn was just annihilating Marquette, who's a good team. So
I could see UConn pulling it back together.
Yeah.
Before the end of the season.
Their
College basketball seasons, I mean, it's so funny. I mean, they're not, they're not nearly as long as an NBA season, right? But it feels like there are so many twists and turns in a college basketball season just because of the emotional nature of,
one of the things
players.
I thought was really funny looking at KenPom today was that Alabama's number 1 in tempo and they're number 5 at KenPom, and 4 is Purdue, and they're 331st in tempo. It's like different styles.
Yes.
It's like St. Mary's is 7th and Alabama's 5th, and St. Mary's is 359th in tempo, and it's funny.
Purdue, Alabama would be an entertaining game to watch.
It would. Styles make fights, and that would be an interesting one. Houston and Alabama will be really interesting too. Houston's like 347th in tempo. But yeah, and then it's like Arizona, Marquette, Texas, and Kansas are all high tempo teams, and they're right behind St. Mary's, who's plays like molasses. So it's just interesting. I mean, every team is so different. Where's Indiana in tempo right now? 126th. 126th.
No, we're playing faster than that, aren't we?
Yeah, 126.
Seriously? Oh, I was thinking of our average possession length. That's right. But we hold. It's so funny. Our average possession length is 16.4 seconds, which is top 50, but then our opponents are 18.3. So, I mean, we force long possessions on defense.
Yeah. Strength of schedule.
Man, our defense is so much better than when it went. And maybe that was just, Race wasn't in there, X wasn't in there. Everyone was kind of,
they talk,
hanging their heads. But, man.
I think Miller has stepped up in the talking department. I think Trace has stepped up in the talking department.
And you've heard a few people say, I think Woodson might have mentioned this on his show, and I think I've heard someone else mention it. Guys struggled dealing with the injuries to players,
Yeah.
and kind of felt sorry for themselves a little bit. I think they lost a little confidence, lost some edge, and they got it back.
Yeah, and it takes time. I mean, it does,
and the coaches adjusted too.
And it takes time for everybody to adjust to getting more minutes, to how do you deal with starting? Like, a lot of guys aren't built to start. It's very true, and they have to develop that persona as a starter and things like that, and have the confidence to start and be in there for long periods of. It's not just like getting the legs of being in there long term. It's having the confidence to be in there. I mean, you've seen Malik's confidence is completely changed. I mean, he was going right at Zach Edey the other day. I mean, like, where was like 6 weeks ago? That wasn't that same guy. And
it'd be interesting here at the stretch. Jared, you said the schedule coming down, but this team has righted the ship, and we haven't seen that for a while. We've always seen maybe good starts followed by just slow drain to mediocrity and maybe make the tournament.
I mean, they righted it last season at the very last second.
Yeah,
right,
and that was basically
at the very last
because
second.
Trace went into hero mode. I mean, that's
which he's doing now, but the coaches have adapted, the players have adapted.
Agree.
You want to see that in a game. You don't want to see the same things over and over and over again and just kind of getting lucky. They're not getting lucky. They've all earned it.
No.
Jared, you pointed out that these next two games are enormous for the tenor of this season. I mean, if they can, they should be able to beat Northwestern. I know Northwestern's really good and plays very well, but they should be able to find a way to beat Northwestern. They should have beat them at home. They got to find a way to beat them.
It's the number 57 and 58 teams in KenPom. We're actually expected to win both of them.
I know.
We have a healthy respect for what it takes to win on the Big Ten,
I
win
think
on the road in the
Michigan's
Big Ten,
tougher.
I would agree 100% because Michigan has the dudes. Like, they might not be, whether they're
and
playing
Buffkin's
well or
playing
not.
a lot better now.
Yeah,
too.
Whether those guys are playing well or not, it only takes one game for them to wake up. Like, and it always does. Yep. And so Michigan is the tougher game. I would agree. Northwestern, the difference is Michigan doesn't get the most out of its players, whereas Northwestern gets everything out of its players. So their ceiling, and you can beat their ceiling if you play well enough.
And Michigan, the tough thing is,
if everybody in Michigan
gets mentally ready for Northwestern.
If Michigan plays at their absolute peak, they could beat pretty much anybody in the country.
Oh, yeah, they got tons of talent.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's always that factor. It's about making them play like garbage, and that's on Indiana to do. They didn't do it at Maryland. Maryland, they should – I mean, on paper, they should beat Maryland, even on the road, and they didn't do it. So, it's really going to be interesting to see how they come out. The start of that game will be incredibly important because on the road, typically, if they start well, they play well. If they start poorly, it's not a fun night. And even if the score is close as it was at Maryland, there were still indicators that they were not playing well. There's a lot of loose ball handling. There was a lot of, kind of taking some poor shots and forcing stuff. And what happened with Maryland was you're playing tight with them, and then Maryland started scoring. Started making the shots that they were missing that they should have been making. So
3 days in between games is, I think you mentioned that earlier, Ryan, is good too.
It'll help,
It'll help. The emotion from Saturday to Tuesday from Ohio State to Maryland wasn't handled well on the road. It was handled well when you had the home game as the second game.
Yeah,
Wednesday,
now you
got Saturday,
Wednesday.
Yeah. And those extra days of flying home, getting a couple days at home, flying back out or whatever, that it sounds silly, but if you're going to win on the road, that extra 3 days of just getting mentally rested,
people discount the travel portion of the schedule. Yes. Getting all your shit together, flying, going to a hotel room, unpacking, being in not being in your own bed, all of that stuff takes something out of players. It's why there's a home court advantage. It's why road teams do not play as well on the road. Typically, some guys thrive on that. Some guys love being in a hotel and all that stuff. But for the most part, that's rough. It's part of your day that you can't be practicing or doing what you're comfortable with at home. You're traveling. And so there's a reason why that's a thing. And, you got to deal with it, though. It's part of the game.
We've now broken all of our stupid streaks except winning at Wisconsin. And this is the 1 year that we don't get to play at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's true.
They suck. Northwestern just won at Wisconsin. That's the only one we have hanging over us, damn it.
I was a senior in high school the last time we beat Wisconsin. And
That's
I'm
so
not
stupid.
young. I am
Such
not
a
a spring
dumb streak.
chicken. It is.
This is why it's dumb because we
last year there's a reason why I was so upset last year when we lost that game. I was furious.
Up 20.
Up 21 in the first half, and they scored like 17 points in the second half. I mean, it was because it wasn't like they were up 21 and then lost by like 2 points. Like it was a comfortable win for Wisconsin. It was like 7 or something like that. Like
the thing is, we were up 25, and then they scored like the last 4 points of the first half, and every IU fan is like, "Oh no,
oh crap,
that's not a good way to end the half."
Yeah,
and then it just continued.
No, and that was a game where like everybody was mad at Xavier Johnson for taking so many shots. It's like, well, nobody else was doing anything. He had to drive late in the shot.
You know, it was interesting. Tom Izzo had a great quote actually earlier this week where he was talking about AJ Hogard and how he's been struggling. And he basically said, yeah, AJ's struggling a little bit, trying to do too much, but that's because other guys aren't doing enough.
Aren't doing anything.
It's not on him, and that's important to remember for a point guard. I think
yeah.
Jalen gets that criticism sometimes.
He does.
Where it's like, someone's got to take a shot.
Yeah, no, I thought he forced his shot a few times tonight. Like he took a 3 where he was completely off balance. He took a couple of those pull-ups
early too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's when they're early in the shot clock that you don't.
And there were a couple pull-ups he took where he just didn't have the room. Like you're forcing it to try and get yourself hot. He did that a few times at Maryland too. And it's just like if you don't have it, you can impact the game without scoring points by being the point guard. You know, and I know there weren't many openings tonight. I mean, quite frankly, he was doing the best he could, but he's got to step up against Michigan. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to have a real good game, and he has to for them.
Yeah, they're not very good defensively, are they?
No.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, fellas. Good.
Man, what a
having you
whirlwind.
on. Good winning.
Heck yeah. 2 big games.
We will. Yeah, let me know Thursday. I'm available Thursday anytime.
I think I'm available Thursday, but I will let you know.
Okay.
I'm not 100%.
We're going to make you do it alone at like 10 o'clock Pacific time.
Then I'm out. See you guys next week.
Ask Ryan anything.
Saturday I'll be on.
All right, Ryan, real quick. I need 30 seconds on Kyrie Irving to the Mavs.
I don't know why Mark Cuban would do that to his franchise, quite frankly. I think it was stupid. If they don't win a championship, which I don't think they will, if they don't win
they can't guard anybody.
Well, yeah, if they don't win a championship, the move was completely pointless. You gave up assets and your second and third best players for a guy who you're almost certainly not going to re-sign. And the people who are saying like, yeah, but they'll get his cap space. He's only got a $36 million cap hit. That's not enough for a max player.
No one ever comes to Dallas as a free agent anyway.
And Christian Wood will be a free agent too, so you can get to a max player, but you're giving up 2 players for 1 slot. One max slot. It's a dumb trade. He was going to make trouble in Brooklyn. You probably didn't need to give up the picks and give up the draft assets to get him. You could have just given up the players who would help the Nets. Like it's moronic. But also, I have heard that Nets owner Joe Tsai turned down the Lakers offer because he didn't want to send Kyrie where he wanted to go.
I heard that
too. And I believe that 100 because the Lakers offer was probably better. Yeah. It's more in the future picks, but it was probably a better offer. And the Nets turned it down because they didn't want to send Kyrie where he wanted to go. And, look at where Kyrie's been. Only place he's won a championship or been on a championship level run was with LeBron James. And he made the big shot to win that series and all of that stuff. But he was the second guy on that team. And is he the second guy to Luka? Yeah. But is he going to accept that role? He didn't in Brooklyn. He didn't.
And
with
do
the
they
Celtics.
have the defensive role players those Cavs teams
course,
did? That's the thing. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah,
and I feel bad for Luka. Luka is my favorite player in the NBA to watch other than LeBron James. And I like LeBron James just because he's historical.
They're going to be fun offensively, though.
Oh,
they're going to be the high-scoring offense in the league.
It'll be fun to watch, but it'll be what? The end of the season, Kyrie's going to be talking trash about this franchise. Like, I mean,
Probably.
he is never content, and that will continue. He crapped on the Cavs, crapped on the Celtics, crapped on the Nets. It's not going to change, man. It's just not going to change.
They should have gone all out and gotten OG, paired him with Luka. There's your defensive stopper and a guy who can make threes.
But the OG market has been complicated by Kevin Durant potentially being available. So nobody knows what the OG market will be right now, and he may not get traded as a result. I think he will be, though.
Yeah.
He needs to get off the Raptors.
Yeah.
They're falling apart. I mean, they're gonna have to rebuild after this year. Van Vliet's gone, probably almost certainly. So there's some Van Vliet to the Lakers rumors. That should be an interesting pairing. LeBron would love him. But I will say this about LeBron too. I've been talking to people on Twitter that people have been asking about where I put LeBron all time if he sets the scoring record. And I've said the same thing. And somebody said this a couple weeks ago, and it just sums up my feelings perfectly. He is going to finish with the greatest career in NBA history. And a lot of people will not consider him the greatest player of all time. But from a career perspective, you cannot argue that he's fourth all time in assists and he's a forward. Like,
it kind of just, it depends on the parameters of the debate.
Again,
you know?
it's like subjective. It's so subjective.
Well, it's like if Trace comes back, right, and sets the all-time Indiana scoring record, is he a better scorer than Calbert, right? Or did he just play more games and accumulate more points?
But
so that's what I mean. Like, it depends on how you're.
Here's what I'll say about LeBron. Here's what I'll say about LeBron that's different than TJD taking advantage of a COVID year. LeBron has also put himself in a position to play this long by how hard he works on his body and all of that stuff. And it's kind of changed the game the way Tom Brady changed the game for quarterbacks. Like, hey, if you take care of your body this way, you can play into your 40s. I mean, the way LeBron James takes care of his body, he copied sort of the Kobe Bryant model of spending millions of dollars to keep yourself in that kind of shape to play forever. And whereas guys in the 90s were out drinking and smoking cigars and all of that stuff when they weren't playing, and their bodies broke down in their 30s. So you can't really, I don't think you can really ding LeBron for making it so he could play this long. That said, I think one interesting measure for LeBron, if you're doing the LeBron Jordan comparison thing or whatever, is that LeBron has been in the NBA for 20 years and he has been on the best team in the NBA maybe 3 times. Jordan was on the best team in the NBA probably 7 seasons. One of them was like a half season because he came back. So we'll give him 6. And it was the 6th they won championships. LeBron's only been on the best team 3 times. And one time in the finals, they ran into that Dallas team that was on an ungodly run that I don't think anybody was beating that year.
And he played the worst game of his life. I mean, he was awful in that series.
Yeah, he was.
I think LeBron is amazing. Viscerally, I'll still take Michael.
No, probably. I would probably call Michael the greatest player of all time as well. But
LeBron's right up there in the conversation.
I do think LeBron is going to have what we look at in 10 years as the greatest career of all time if you're well ready. If you're just basing it on championships, of course, it's Jordan was 6 for 6. But overall, his career is going to be considered the best of all time, I think, for sure. And Jordan also, Jordan stepped away for a while. Jordan, it was, you have to take that all into consideration. He opted to walk away for a while. So,
Coach, give us your NBA hot takes with Tom Sony, please.
Coach Tom Sony has takes on the NBA.
College basketball podcast. Going to give you 20 minutes on the NBA. All right.
No, I watch the league in April and May.
Yeah. Look,
occasionally.
I appreciate. Here's the thing about LeBron too that is amazing. Is that he was the most hyped prospect in the history of the league, and he surpassed every expectation, which never
That's
happens.
Incredible.
That never happens. Even Peyton Manning, who was the most hyped quarterback to come out of college in forever, he was expected to win like 7 Super Bowls. And he had an amazing career, set all the records, but even he didn't break the mold the way LeBron has. I mean, LeBron's changed positional basketball. You can have a 6'9" guy legitimately doing every single thing on a basketball court. And I'm not sure that was really a thing before him consistently. So now you've got a ton of guys who can do that. So, yeah, the way Jordan broke the mold for guards, I think that he broke the mold for forwards. So that's that. That's my NBA minute. Thank you very much.
I asked you for
read more
seconds.
takes at thebiglead.com. You get so many brownie points for that. All right, guys. I'm going to go eat something.
Coach is ready for bed. He's ready for
Jared wants to keep talking, so he doesn't have to worry about if the kids are getting out of bed or not.
Oh, no. As long as I'm in here, I'm safe in my office.
Yeah. It's the
I got some bracketology work to do, fellas.
And make sure you ask Jay. Make sure you ask Jay for his takes.
Oh, I got a hotline straight to Jay for any hot debate.
Indiana could be a 1 seed, Coach.
Funniest. I mean, there were many funny moments from this weekend. Certainly, our buddy Greg referring to you as Tom over and over again is moment number 1.
Killed me. Absolutely.
But the late night intense arguing between Coach and Jay.
I was sitting at the other end of the table, just
bracketology,
loving
and specifically Brad Underwood was absolutely hilarious. I can't do it justice. Like I wish we had video.
What
to
was
show
the
people.
one quote Coach had? He said,
I don't know. I texted it. I put it in
you
our
put it in your notes.
Hold on.
It was
Someone
hysterical.
say something interesting while I look this up.
It
said
funny.
something like someone commented. He said he was sexy or something. Jay's sexy or something. I said, yeah, you're closer to sexy than you are being right in bracketology or something.
Right.
Something. And Jay's not good looking either.
Yeah. Coach to Jay. Okay, here are the two quotes.
Jared, hold on. You need to pull that clip for when we do the mediocre question.
Yeah.
Jay's not good looking either. Like that needs to be pulled.
There's two quotes I have in here from the weekend. One is Coach to Jay, you're closer to being sexy than you are to being right about bracketology. And then, let's see, this was about an hour prior. Where's your bracketology, bitch?
If you guys haven't been in the meetup, it's a great time. You got to go next year.
Those were my back-to-back comments, an hour apart. Like I only got two. It was one was at 12:45, the bracketology bitch, and then the other one was at 1:45. I didn't say a word. I just got berated by Jay.
All right, guys.
Did you see Jay's seats today, by the way? Jay was
floor
seats tonight. Yeah, that was nice.
You could tell once he sent that picture out that you could tell by his bald head from the TV camera when they panned down to the
shiny
to the north end. You could pick out that bald dude is bigger than life. He was like third seat in or second, yeah, and he was small too little.
Are you doing
That's
the Drew
what I should have
Timmy?
done.
You doing the Drew Timmy too small thing?
I should have sat right next to him and said, you're too little.
Oh, gosh. That was fun. All right, let's get out of here.
I got some work to do.
Bye, guys.
Don't you have an article to write, Ryan?
I'm writing an article about Trace Jackson Davis. It'll be in the community tomorrow, or go to biglead.com, biglead.com. Follow it at the Big Lead on Twitter.
Oh,
okay. That's right.
Random
sports talk and meetup banter brought to you by the Big Lead.
That's AC After Dark stuff right there. That really was After Dark.
Well, we haven't gotten silly at the end of a show in a while. Hang around and do this more.
Winning.
Yeah, we got to get it out now because the next couple of games could be rough.
Winning.
That's right. We're going on the road. Have some fun now.
No, Coach Marl, that was late Saturday night, man. That was
late.
Super
Jay
late.
And I.
When
it was a Royal Rumble, man.
Don't worry, Coach Marlon. Nothing good happens after 1 a.m.
Woo. It was brutal.
All right, I'm out of here.
Lisa's still with us.
Studio.
I think Lisa made fun of me, if I'm right. Good, Jared. Lisa, who always compliments me and everyone in the community for writing something. I think she had something. I couldn't find it. I was going to put it up on the screen.
She made fun of you in the chat?
Yeah, sweet old Lisa, I think, said something, or maybe I just attributed it to Lisa. Lisa, do you have that real quick before I go? I thought that was funny. I don't know what you said. No,
I know she said thanks, Tom Sony. I've got that.
Oh, that was it. Thanks, Tom Sony. So she had to be nice and continue to thank, and then add the Tom Sony in. So all right, Lisa.
we need assembly call jerseys that have Tom Sony. That have Tom Sony on the back with like 00 or whatever your number is. That's what we need.
It's part of my NIL deal. I get $2 a T-shirt. I'll end up with like $6.
I don't know, man. I think that one will sell a lot.
Tom Sony,
dude.
That's not the first time. It's happened a lot in my life that someone thought my name was Tom.
Has it really? I guess that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh, crazy stuff. All right,
that was
I'm
great.
out.
All right, y'all.
We'll see you guys. Good stuff.